Namaste, everyone. Welcome to today's manifestation success story episode. I'm very excited today because I have a very special guest who's going to be here with us.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Mike with Six Pack Shortcuts.
Make sure to use your abs.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Mike with Six Pack Shortcuts.
You can keep your knees kind of slightly bent. That will be fine.
It's core time.
Sure
let's work our abs. Let's work our lower back. Woo. Let's get our midsections looking
This is a great exercise
sexy.
because it works your lower abs.
Suddenly, one day, this channel, which had like around 4+ million following back in the day, which was huge, suddenly disappeared. And I'm like, what happened? And then a few years later, this guy comes back on the radar and we get to connect. There's a lot of things we can learn from people who have manifested a lot of success in their life before, because success leaves clues. So I'm super excited to have this session here today to be able to help you expand your consciousness and hopefully be able to speed up your manifestation using some of the tips and tricks and tools that you may learn from this session. So first of all, I'd like to say, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for taking the time out, because I know you're an extremely busy person. I want to dive straight into it. I remember, I think that was a big thing of yours, afterburn effect. And then it's like how you can raise your metabolism high and then you can burn fat even while you sleep.
It does work.
You built this multi-million-dollar company. And what was your drive behind it? How did you go about doing it? Any thought behind manifestation back in the day, the law of attraction, or was it just pure? Yeah,
tremendously. Thank you, Master Sri. Tremendous amount of manifestation. I actually discovered law of attraction at the age of 22.
Oh, wow.
And I contribute all of my success for Six Pack Shortcuts, for building that company up to what we did. In about 5 years, we became the top fitness channel on YouTube. I mean, we were spending like $500,000 to, or a little over, in ads a month.
And then so, that was back in the day when nobody was even doing that.
Nobody knew how to do ads on YouTube. We were the pioneers. It was literally YouTube took us in with like 11 other people, and there were 12 of us, and we were like the panel, helping them figure out how are our customers using ads to grow their channels. And so it was definitely an exciting time. And coming back into manifestation and law of attraction, I discovered then that if we focus our mind on the goal that we want, and we get so laser focused and we have no distractions, we will create whatever it is that we want. Now, there was this one aspect that I learned, but I wasn't very good at it. And it was feeling, which is the feeling needs to be aligned with the vision that you want. And now I remember I heard about it, but I was more on, vision board, goals, and just work my butt off. And that's what I did. And we built a very successful company. And that was what allowed the success to happen. It had nothing to do with skill sets, because I did not know anything about digital marketing. There are plenty other trainers that are just as good as me. So I cannot say that I was the best trainer. I am a good trainer, and there are many others out there. I was a hard worker, but there's many others out there. But I think the one thing that would stand out is this relentless focus, this attention that was so focused on achieving what I wanted. And I knew that if I just stayed focused, that all the opportunities, whatever I needed, would come to me. I did not have to know exactly how, but I knew it would come. And I did not worry about the how. I just knew the what. And that's all my attention was fixated on, was just the what. And things just started to unfold. And
so was it the case that you getting into law of attraction, was that before Six Pack Shortcuts?
Yes, I started when I was about 20, I believe about 28. I was 28 years old when I started Six Pack Shortcuts. And right. I learned about law of attraction through a friend of mine who introduced me to the Secret movie. I was 22, and I remember watching it and going, I I believe what they're saying, but I really don't get it. But I believe it, but it's just kind of the idea of asking the universe, like I'm scratching my head. I know there's truth behind it, but I don't get it. So then I watched it again. And I'm like, okay, I get a little bit more, but I'm still not quite there. And then I watched it again, and I remember so clearly I was sitting on my kitchen counter, and my girlfriend at the time was next to me, and we're discussing the movie. Third time now I watched it. I think it was her second time. And I remember remembering a moment when I was in school, and I don't even know how old I was. I was very young, under 10 years old, and the teacher asked you, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I told the teacher, I didn't really know. I just said, I want to be a businessman like my father. And that was it. She's like, oh, okay, all right. And I remember in my idea of what a businessman was at the age of 10 was a person who wears a suit, they carry a briefcase, and they walk into a very tall business building. That's what business people do. They do business in a business building dressed in a business attire. That's all I knew. And I remember sitting there on the kitchen counter and realizing that at that very moment, my job was wearing a suit every day, carrying a briefcase, and walking up into a tall 64-story building, which was in Houston. It was the Chase building, right off of San Felipe and like Augusta. And I remember sitting there going, oh my God, there's no way that I manifested that from being such a young child and not knowing anything. And now I'm 22. Like it's been over 10, 12 years. And I remember I started to believe. I was like, no, I mean, this cannot be a coincidence, because how could I even know that that's what how can I even trace it back? I had no idea. And yet here I am doing.
So it's like you unconsciously manifested that, huh?
Unconsciously, right? So I'm like, so is that an accident? Okay. Now I'm a believer, but if it's very true, I need to test it. I cannot just say this is real, because if it is, then that means I can go ahead and manifest what I want. So I went ahead. So I said, okay, so what do I really want right now? And at the age of 22, like many 22-year-olds, I want to make more money. I want to be successful. And at the moment, the most amount I've ever made in my entire life was $6,000 in 1 month. And I wasn't making that every month. My average was about 2.5 to maybe 3,000, maybe 3,500. So I said, okay, well, I want to go ahead and make more money. So I decided, okay, in 1 month, I'm going to make X dollars. But what would the X dollars be? And I said, if I put 6,000, I might accidentally make it because I just work it really hard. So I said, no, I can't put 6. Maybe I put 7 or 8. I was like, no, but I'm a really hard worker, and I might just go really hard for 30 days. I was like, no, that's not enough. I'm going to put double the amount that I've ever made, because there's no way that I've never even made that, not even close. So I put $12,000, which was a lot of money. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I wrote, I am making $12,000 per month. I wrote it on pieces of regular paper with just a marker, and I posted it up everywhere in my house, probably like maybe 12, 15 places. Like there was no place you can look that you would not see it. On my fridge, behind my clothes in the closet, on my car, on my laptop, on my phone, everywhere, in the restroom, wherever you can turn your head, you walk into my home, you will see it. And in 30 days, I didn't make $12,000, but I made $11,864.
And how did that come about then? Like it just.
So I was doing loans at the time. I was in I was doing subprime loans. And this was like before 08, before the market crashed. And during that month, I was focused on, I am making $12,000 per month. I had no idea how, but I was just kind of seeing it every day. And then I just kept on working. But because in my mind, I knew that this will somehow work, but I have no idea how. And I just kind of let go of the doubt. And I just kept on working, and I kept on being focused on that goal. That's it. I just went and I focused on that goal. And then as the month starts to unfold, there start to show clues. I'm like, oh, well, you know, this deal closed and this deal closed and this deal closed. I mean, that could be 12,000. I mean, that could even be like 15. And then suddenly one deal falls off, and then suddenly it looks like there's only 8,000 max. And then another deal falls off, and suddenly there's only 4,000 max. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna let go on how this is gonna happen. I'm just gonna keep on going. And that's exactly what happened. I had 2 small deals that was like 4,000. And then I had one big deal that was really tough to put through, and that was almost 8,000. And that was like a last minute. It wasn't even a guarantee it was going to close. Last minute it closed, and that put me over. Well, put me to that goal.
And I guess from that moment on, it was more scripting, more visualization. What happened after that then?
After that, it made me a believer. I was like, it's like you hold the keys to life. You know, like, oh my God, I can create whatever I want. Now it just becomes like a genie bottle. Like, what do I want to create? Because I can do it now. And I didn't really know, except I knew I wanted to make more money, and I knew I liked to do something that helps people, but I really didn't know what. And fast forward, it wasn't until I saw an old friend of mine that I haven't talked to in years, and he told me about online marketing. He told me about information products. And back then, information product was like very, very, very new thing. Nobody sells information products. This is when Truth About Abs was the fitness product online, you know, and Mike Geary was like the guy. And so I learned about that, and I go, this is what I want to do. I want to go ahead and do something similar. I want to teach people how to exercise, and I want to put it online. So this way I can really leverage and not just be training people or do this one-on-one transaction. I want to have a 24-hour shop, you know, and be able to scale.
But at that time, you probably had no idea that you were going to gain millions of following, right?
No idea.
Because I mean, millions of following on YouTube back then was not even that common, right? So
it was. I was so clueless that I remember about 6 months in, we were online. I was making videos, and 6 months in, I told my partner Dan, I said, I think if we are successful, I mean, I think people are gonna know me everywhere. And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh shit. That was not part of what I wanted. I did not care. It wasn't even on my radar. You know, and today it's like everybody wants to have followers, and that was completely, you know, not in my line of sight. The only thing that was in my line of sight is I want to go ahead and have financial security, make a lot of money, and do it and doing something I love. That's it. And I remember 6 months in going, what? So people are gonna know me. Okay. I processed it, and I said, oh, okay, well, yeah, whatever it takes. Focus on making it happen. And so then it just went on, and the popularity started to grow, and before I know it, people started to recognize me, and just kind of then it just went a little crazy. And then everywhere I go, I'm being recognized, and it felt a little tiring sometimes. I literally tried to, I'm like, okay, maybe I wear a beanie, and then I wear some sunglasses, and then I get the looks.
But you just can't cover those biceps though.
So yeah, it's like, you know, what do I do? Wear a sweater? So it actually feels really good right now that I don't get recognized much anymore. It's like, oh, okay, good. I'm back to, I feel peaceful. But no, it's okay either way. I'm past it now.
That's an amazing story, because I think that from what you just shared there, I mean, like, it's interesting because I also went through a similar process of just achieving things, but not really knowing a particular strategy to refer to. It's not like, hey, I did XYZ law of attraction strategies, but it's only when we connect the dots backwards, we're like, hey, I was actually doing that at that point, whether it be the subconscious programming from your childhood, and what you decided you wanted, to then deciding to focus on something, as the saying goes, what we focus on expands and results start to show. And so you started to get opportunities, but also the taking action part, because you've mentioned quite a few times already, you took relentless action, which is something that I think some people sometimes misunderstand law of attraction in thinking that, oh, that means I should just sit here and visualize every day. But you did a lot. You were actually in the hustle and grind, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And then also the point where when you were sharing, okay, you knew what you wanted, you didn't exactly know the how, but you were open for it. And you were just, well, what we would kind of say these days is that you were kind of just, you were in flow state, you were flowing with whatever was coming to you. You were open to receiving it and stepping into those opportunity portals, I like to say. And at points where you were totally surrendered to, like, you no longer had any expectation. It wasn't like I need to hit 4 million subscribers by next year or anything like that. It wasn't I need to make X amount of money. It just started to happen because you were open for it and you were detached to the outcome. Now, I want to fast forward the story now to a very interesting part, because one day you disappeared.
Yes.
How did that all come about? Because I know we've had this conversation before, but I think it's a very interesting thing for the listeners and the viewers, because it's spirituality, it's consciousness, it's a
yes.
Yeah.
So when I was in Six Pack Shortcuts, and I'm running the business with my partners. So on the outside, I am creating everything that I've ever wanted. It was the dream life. I had a great figure. I was making a lot of money. I had plenty of material things. I was very, very well known. I had plenty of friends. Had a girlfriend, a dog, and a beautiful house, and a business that was exactly what I wanted. Fitness and business combined together. I show up at work in a wife beater and sweats every day. I mean, I couldn't be better in that. Like that's like my dream, you know. I didn't like wearing suits, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I had everything, but on the inside, I was not happy. And I did not realize that I was not happy. I thought I was just living how entrepreneurs would live their life. You know, you're a little stressed sometimes. You got some pressure. You're dealing with so much because you're having so many things going on. So yeah, it's okay to be upset sometimes, to have stress, and it's normal. Well, so that goes on, and then I remember one day I'm sitting in a meeting with my manager, and I stopped being able to really connect the dots to what she was telling me. And I remember thinking like I'm trying to pay attention, and I really couldn't pay attention. It's like I could hear what she's saying, but I could not connect the dots, and I was confused on why. And we would finish the meeting, and she asked me if I had any feedback, and I had no idea. I couldn't give any feedback, and if I tried, she would know that I had no idea what the heck she was telling me. So I just said, "Nope, I don't have any feedback. This is good, thank you." And I remember scratching my head, going, "What just happened? Like, did I just have no idea what just happened? Like, was I even present here?" And at the time, I didn't think about presence in this way. All I knew was that I couldn't understand what she was saying. And it was weird because I'm I'm the one that created that department and created the procedures, and I'm the one managing it. How come I don't know what she's saying? It was like my mind stopped having the capacity to understand, complex things. Another thing was that I had an injury in my lower back on the right side. And injuries are pretty common because when you're training with a lot of heavy weights and you're doing the things that I'm doing and you're having to do little stunts sometimes for videos, you get injured all the time. It's no big deal. You heal really quickly. This injury did not heal. It actually just remained a sharp pain in my right lower back, and it got worse and worse. I couldn't stand, I couldn't sit, nor could I lay down without pain. It was like there are times to where I couldn't do anything because any position I'm in, I had pain. And I remember sitting there one day trying to work, and I was in extreme pain when I was sitting down. I couldn't even focus on what I was doing. It was just too bad. It was like just knife stabbing. So then I got up, and there still pain. I knew I wasn't going to lay down because it would be really painful to get up. So I was just so desperate that I just left the office and I just started walking. It's like Forrest Gump. What'd you do? I just started walking. Where? I don't know. Just kept walking. And walking was the only thing that relieved the pain by just enough so I can just kind of breathe and like gather myself. And I walked for 3.5 hours until the pain settled down to where it was bearable. And I went back to the office and I'm going, oh my God, do I need to walk 3.5 hours every day? Like this pain just comes out of nowhere and I don't know what to do. And the last thing that was happening during this time was that I would fight with my girlfriend a lot. I would come home and I would nitpick about anything. She was always pissing me off. And I knew that it wasn't really her, but I couldn't stop myself from being upset. And then I go to this event one day, in Utah. And it's like a marketing event where people go and they speak about different topics. And my partners and I, we spoke about YouTube, and marketing and video content creation. And at the end of the event, I had an experience. And that experience has shifted my entire life up to this point. It was on February 8th, 2015. And that experience was, I was able to see my identity that I created about myself, what I like, what I dislike, my expectations, the story of this guy named Mike Shane, the story of me. I saw how I created the story. And I realized that I was not this story in my head. And I was thinking, like, if I'm not the story in my head, because I explained to this person about how I grew up, and we all talk about grow up stories. Someone goes, "How did you grow up?" You could spit it out really easily because you said it a lot of times. And I said my story, but that night I said my story very differently. And the reason why is because I had a shift in perspective. 2 hours before, I took some psilocybin, some magic mushrooms. And that was the first time I ever did that. And so I had a shift in my perspective. So I said my story in a new way, a way without the pain, without needing to prove myself, without the being picked on and all this stuff, my old story that I had, which drove everything that I did in my life. That's why I worked so hard, as we were talking earlier. Why did you go in the grind? I needed to prove myself. And I was very conscious of it, right? To show everybody. Well, this new story had nothing about that in there. And it was just another perspective of what happened. And it wasn't like I was making it up. It was exactly what happened, just another perspective. And it was fine.
So this is like what a lot of people refer to as like an awakening,
Yes.
A big paradigm shift, a realization that we've been living under some sort of identity that we conformed ourselves to, or society or surroundings brought us to. And I think it's very nice how you're sharing how, and I think a lot of people, in fact, probably majority people, are living that life, whether they go to work and they come to acceptance and say, oh, well, you're supposed to sometimes get upset, angry, stressed, whatever, and it's normal. Or in relationships, you're supposed to fight sometimes, that's normal. And they come to acceptance of that. And I always say to people, I say, if you say, yeah, it's normal, then yeah, it's normal. But for you, don't say that it is true for everyone else. It's just because if you've never got to a different level of consciousness and awareness and shifted that reality, you haven't experienced that before. Because from how I see what the message you're putting out today, talking all things flow state and looking after your body in a very different way. Obviously, six-pack is still there, muscles are still there, but the way the energy is flowing, the way your energy is, the way how we no longer allow the ego to take charge of our life, kind of like that, and living more consciously, creating more consciously, and being overall like genuinely happy, not just an outside smile and an outside
Trying
success.
to be happy.
Yeah,
there's no more trying.
Yeah, but it's actually
Express
happy
naturally.
from inside, which is beautiful to see. But where did that next step take you then? So you had this moment, okay, you realized that, this identity I've been living under. And then, so what did you do next? What practices did you do? Did you do anything? Did you train under anything? And then, how did you get to where you are now with this level of consciousness?
Well, after I realized that I was not this identity, and things started to change in my body. When I talked about how I had that pain in my back, the pain disappeared. It was there for 9 months and it disappeared in 6 hours.
That's like the universe speaking to you, no?
Well, I did not believe in magic. I said, magic is when we do not understand and we put a label on there. So this way we can just say it's unexplainable, but it's just because I lack the explanation. Well, that pain disappeared, and 6 hours it disappeared. My mind, when I lacked the capacity just to understand a normal conversation in my own company in one department, went from that level of consciousness so narrow to expanding so wide that I was able to understand every single thing in my life and what I need to do. And I understood all people. It was like the most vast understanding of just life and what is that I've ever experienced. And I remember looking around, knowing that there's a lot of other people that took psilocybin that night. And not everybody is experiencing what I'm experiencing. So I knew maybe it has something to do with it, but it is not that, because it was my first time. And the way I felt in my body was so light. I was practically floating. I mean, it was like I was almost levitating off the ground. I remember my chest was floating upwards. And I was looking at my arms because my arms are just kind of floating in the air. And my arms don't float in the air. I lift a lot of weights and they're really heavy and they just kind of drop to my side. And here it goes. My body feels completely different. So I knew something changed. And the biggest thing was I was so happy. I was so free that I had no fears, no worries. It did not even exist. It was the most clearest and I have ever experienced in my mind. I experienced a level of presence that was just complete stillness in my mind. And it was the best thing I ever discovered. And I had no idea what was happening. So then fast forward, I was determined to go ahead and number one, find out what did I do? Because I saw what I was doing. It wasn't just taking mushrooms and having a conversation. When that happened, I started to have the conversation. I started to tap the top of my head. I did not know why. It was just a intuition to tap it. And then I started to breathe heavily because my body required me to have more oxygen. So I just started to breathe heavily. And then I was stretching because it felt good to stretch. And I kept talking and not caring about what other people thought because it felt really good to express in that way instead of express and what do other people think of me. And so I was doing those things and for 6 hours. I did those things for 6 hours in front of a lot of strangers, roughly about 70 to 80 strangers that I just met, about 3 days ago that did not know me very well. And here I am. Can you imagine tapping on the top of the head, heavily breathing and walking around talking to myself, by the way, not to other people, out loud to myself. I completely did not care anymore. Like if somebody thought I was crazy, well, thank you. And I keep going. And at the end is what I experienced, all of these things. And so I knew I did something there, but I had no idea what it was. And I went through a long time to go and dive in. I started to dive in everything because I wanted to discover what did I do so this way I can maintain that state. Because that state was there for about 2 weeks and it started to drop down. And during those 2 weeks, I was already diving in. I spent all of my time doing that. And I wanted to figure it out so this way I can help other people experience the same thing. And it took me 4 years. So you said I just dropped off. Well, the moment I realized that I will give up everything. I don't care about anything else in life anymore because everything else in life was just to create happiness.
So that's a huge awakening in one moment.
One moment.
For somebody to have spent a few years, you had dedicated at that time, how many years to Six Pack Shortcuts? Maybe
is it about 5.5, about 6 years?
five to 6 years and amassing around, is it around 4 million subscribers at the time? Was it? How many
Yeah,
subscribers?
we're almost about 4 million at the
Around
time.
4 million
Yeah.
subscribers and $1 million company. And then suddenly you just decide, I'm done, or walk out.
Yeah, we were doing about 13, 14 million, on track to do like we had a plan for 50. You know,
Wow.
I was getting into a new office. We were going to hit it. There was no doubt in my mind we could get to it.
So you got a huge awakening for you to be able to just say, I'm done. This is enough. This isn't for me. I'm going and then embarking on a new path.
My perspective became so expansive that I saw everything. I saw everything in my life, and I realized that nothing really mattered. The only thing that really matters was my experience of reality, the way I feel, my state of being. It's like giving a bird who's in a golden cage everything it ever wants and is still in this cage. All it wants to do is be free. You know, why don't you take everything and just let me be free? And I realized that that's what was the most important, was the freedom that I was experiencing, the freedom of mind, the freedom in my body. And that's why nothing else could ever get me there. Like nothing mattered, because I've reached a level of success and I knew it wouldn't matter if I double, triple, or 10 times X. It doesn't matter. That's why I was willing to let it go. I didn't know what it took, but I was willing to let it go. I became literally unattached to everything. And very shortly, I told my partners that I want to go ahead and pursue this, and we're going to teach everybody how to do this once I figure this out. And
and then you were gone for 4 years, no?
Well, they didn't really agree with my business strategy. You know, they're like, yeah, we're a fitness company. I think we're gonna stay in fitness. You know, and maybe you can not do that on your own. But I said, no, I'm going to do that. And if you're not aligned to it, then we just need to go separate ways, because I don't care. So that's what I did. That's why I left, because I knew that in my position at the time, I have no idea what happened. I have nobody around me that knows what happened. Everybody around me, I knew a lot of people, and everybody was all about this entrepreneurship, you know, grinding and making it in life. Nobody was interested in consciousness and expanding of the mind. And so, and the fact that I'm 32 and I've never experienced this in my life, what's the chances of this happening again? This could be a total fluke, just this one time, and then I'm back to just being how I was. And that, compared to how I felt then, was completely like death. I mean, I remember had this vision in my head that my life before, with all of the success, was like being in a dark hole, chained up with no light.
Very interesting.
And not being able to speak. That was exactly the vision I had. And like it came to me very, very quickly. And it was instantly that I knew that I could not go back and do the same thing again, that I needed to move forward. And moving forward, I don't know what it is, but I knew I would give up everything to go and figure it out.
So now I see that you do a lot of what is quite similar to practices that we also share with people as well, in terms of yoga and breath work and all of that. So did you dedicate those 4 years or something like that learning, or what were you doing?
So I spent all of my attention learning, training, studying in all kinds of ways. I spoke to everybody. I started to find people that were interested in awakenings, interested in spirituality. I started looking for people that were healers and coaches and spiritual teachers. I started diving into all books enlightenment. I started to looking into religion, because Jesus was enlightened, so was Buddha, you know? And so I started to look to see what is the similarity, because everybody is teaching something slightly different from a different method, different angle. And I knew that deep inside, what they were teaching is the truth, but there are 15, 20, 30 different perspectives of the same truth. What is that one thing that everybody is pointing to? What is that one thing that everybody is trying to help people get to? What would that be? Because they're all trying to get to the same place, you know, happiness, fulfillment, you know, freedom from ego. but they were all doing it from different methods. So
Mm.
there's got to be one thing that needs to happen, but we use different tools and methods to get there. And so after looking and spending many years, 4 years, I created this practice. And this practice is taking everything that I've learned and then condensing it down into five different methods, and well, more like 4 different parts, 5 different methods. One method was a combination of a lot of different things. So it's like qigong, it was massage, it was acupressure, and I call it basically part 1 of this practice. And it's very similar to what I did when I awakened, which I was tapping on the top of my head, except now I realized what I was doing. I had tremendous blockage up here. But for people, they may have blockages somewhere else. So this part 1 is basically tapping the entire body using all of these different types of movements, combining breath work and qigong practices, opening up everything, massaging everything to places that people never focus on, like their senses, eyes, nose, ears, tongue, and just to break up the dense energy before we go into part 2, doing something I was very, very familiar with, which is fitness, strength training. Combining 12 exercises together in a particular sequence that grounds the energy, that drives the energy downwards, because it's not just about building muscle. We wanted to use the body to exert, because the way I envision it is like, imagine that the energy in the body was all dense and just block. And then we broke it up by hitting the body, literally tapping, hitting, shaking. And now the energy is starting to break up, but it's still kind of there. So now we exert the body. We use a lot of strength, a lot of heavy breathing. And then we start to push this energy. We start to move it. Now this energy is moving and moving and moving. But we have not yet connected deep to it yet. But now it's moving. So now we go ahead and stretch, and we start to go ahead and bend. Now it's like big blocks just got broken. And then now this broken is starting to bend, and they're starting to go and break into smaller pieces. And we get into all the areas that tapping and strength training could not get into. So yoga, stretching, right? Asanas. And then after that, and we do it in a particular sequence that focuses on the spine, the energy highway, chakra systems. And then after that, we go into breathing, because breathing will access what the other 3 cannot. And we want to focus on driving the energy back upwards, right, towards the third eye and towards the crown. So this way we can expand the mind. And now that the energy is flowing right, everything is open, we now connect. So then we go into meditation. So now we skip all of the sitting there, and the body is so agitated and the mind is racing. The mind is already calm already, and the body is already relaxed. And you got a really good workout already. You increase strength, endurance, flexibility, along with total health, massaging the entire body. So the body feels really, really good. So it's so easy to sit there and meditate. And you can go right into meditation, because there is not this resistance that usually stops people, that makes it really hard for people to even meditate for 5 minutes. And then, so that's how we finish off. And a person does this. So I was doing this in 4 hours a day, and I knew it wasn't going to be realistic, but I didn't know what to do. And then it took me a while to go and break it down and condense it and strip out all the moves that I could, and make it into 60 minutes, 60 moves.
That's really cool. So outsiders, anybody can get into this in 60 minutes. They can get all their energies activated and flowing.
Yep.
That's beautiful. It's very interesting you share that, because the principles and the idea behind how you're activating the energy and channeling the energy is very similar to something that I learned up in the mountains with my master when we were through the training. And we now push this out, called yoga for manifestation, in a very similar way. The idea is very similar. Now, I want to fast forward a little bit, because I know that today you help a lot of people, you coach a lot of people, not just in physical strength for physical training, but also mindset, consciousness, pretty much the whole package. Like, how would you like describe what is it that you are, what is the purpose now? What is your goal? How do you want to help the people? Who do you want to help?
So then after we break up the energy, right, now the mind is more expanded. Now the mind can see in different perspectives. What I realized, though, is now at this point, a person still has these imprinted old thought patterns. The old beliefs are still there. They can now see in a different perspective, but they still can see in the old one as well. They can just have access to more. Before, if their energy was blocked, they can only see in one way. You tell them that there's another way. They go, I believe you, but I can't see it. Now they can see it. So I realized if I want someone to fully be able to transform their life, so this way they can create the things that they want. So this way they can get out of their way and actually take action to manifest all the things that they've ever wanted in their life. They need to go and shift their mind. They need to let go of the old programming. And it's the perfect opportunity because the energy is now open. And now the mind is free to be able to change. Until then, it was stopped. It was blocked. So I created this program to where it's 60 days. And we go through training so I can teach them this one practice, not like a whole bunch, just this one practice. And we master it. 60 moves, 60 days, in 60 minutes. And we master this practice. And then during the 60 days, we dive into the mind every single time we do a live, 3 lives a week. And every time after practice, we dive in when the mind is very, very open because we just got our meditation. And then we start to dive into the lessons. We start diving into the belief systems and finding out which belief systems are not aligned with that person's life. We find out where it came from, what is the emotion that is there that is holding on to that belief. And then I teach them the process of letting go of the emotions, the 4-step process. Very, very simple to let it go. And then we practice it over and over and over. And over a course of 60 days, people are having huge shifts because I'm there 3 times a week with them on lives, and I'm there 7 days a week with them in the group. And people are looking for the support to be able to train in this way. We are training twice a day. That is more than most people don't even train twice a week. They're happy if they get 2 to 3 times a week. We train twice a day. And I created this accountability system.
What would you say to the people who say twice a day? That sounds like a lot of work.
So I tell them it does not matter what fitness level you are in. I can have my mother train twice a day. Okay. And she's in a wheelchair. She can do it. It's not about the capacity of the physical body. It's about the level of mental commitment. So that's why I do these calls with each student. I personally go and I interview the student because I want to make sure that they are mentally ready. Because transformation takes a mental commitment, especially in the work that we do, to where we dive in deep and we're releasing things and we're having to go into these belief systems and challenge their sense of self, because that's what has to change. They cannot be the same way and expect to manifest a different life.
And what type of people do you think this type of program is right for? Do you think it's like, is it for absolute beginners who, are not currently looking after health at all and things like that? Or is it for more conscious minded people? What are the goals of the people? Like, they want a certain outcome, therefore they should come and train with you.
The most important thing is commitment. It's got to be for somebody that realizes that they need to make a change and they know exactly why. And they know that if they don't do it, this is going to be the consequence of my life. This is what is going to cost me if I don't make this change. Those are the people that succeed. Other people that just, I'm interested, I want to learn more, but, they don't have a very clear why. Those people will not do well. Because when we start to go and challenge the mind, when we start to get into uncomfortable emotions that people have been suppressing, it's too much. They don't want to do it. They will find ways to sabotage their results, sabotage doing the work, just like they do in their real life, currently now. They have goals, they know what they need to do, and they know why, but because the why is not strong enough, they will create sabotages and they will not accomplish it. And most of these people may think it is a outer circumstances that's stopping them, when in reality, it's inside them. And so that's why that's the most important thing. Everything else, it helps. Yes, it helps if someone knows some personal improvement, but it's not really necessary.
I think it's beautiful that you say this, because this is like, to me, this is like music to my ears. It's real talk, because I think that a lot of the time, these days you get a lot of coaches and gurus out there, which is kind of always sharing the shortcut. And it's like, oh, use this tool, tap here 3 times, wave this magic wand around, and do all these things. But essentially, people can use all these methods, but if they don't do the inner work and they don't dive deep into the inner work to be able to heal whatever needs healing, or get rid of certain blockages, or find that happiness from within, all of those external things that they blame and complain about, all of those external things that they're chasing, is never really going to make them happy. And they don't even know. They're just in this vicious cycle until they have this awakening. So I think that what you're doing with the people is amazing, because it's true body, mind, spirit connection, right? You're training the body to then be able to open up the mind, and then start training the mind, and then obviously the spirit will follow. So I think it's amazing what you're doing, and the message you're putting out to the world right now. And I believe we've arranged for you to be speaking at our weekly assemble, and it's going to happen I think next Sunday or the Sunday after, or something like that. But maybe if you give the people, because I'm going to give a free invites to all of my subscribers, all of my followers here, to be able to join this session. I think it's going to be highly, highly valuable for everybody to join, because you're going to learn a lot about working on that inner reality to be able to change your outer reality, and be able to manifest more in life. But just to give everybody who I'm just about to gift this free ticket to an insight to what kind of things could they expect to learn in that 60 minutes to 90 minutes with you on our Sunday call.
So first thing is, I'm going to explain the 4 steps to release trapped emotions in their body. Before that, I'm also going to give them a outlook of how to transform the mind, and explain to them how the relationship between their belief system and thoughts, how it connects to feelings, how it connects to emotions. People think feelings and emotions are the same. They are different. I'll explain to them why. So this way they can have an overlook and have a more understanding of their body. And the last thing I'm going to do is, I'm going to show somebody how to get all the way into inner peace, flow state, how to be able to access it without doing the extreme type of athletic things that a lot of people do to get into flow state. You can get into flow state all the time, and I'll explain to somebody how to do that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. So I would like to do a couple of things before we wrap up. So first of all, I know that you, for everybody who's listening right now, if you guys want this free ticket to this weekly assembly that we host, and you want a free ticket to it, all you need to do is just click on the first link inside the description, and you'll be able to claim your free ticket. But make sure to claim it fast, because it's going to be hosted on a Zoom call, and our Zoom capacity only allows 1,000 people at one time. And usually these events, especially when we've got such an amazing a friend with us here on this session, sharing some powerful information, is going to be maxed out for sure. So make sure to do click on the first link inside the description now to secure your space while there are still spaces. But aside from that, I want to kind of ask this: if there are people who already know that, because let me get this right. Do they work with you if they want to actually work with you to go through this training? I think you said it's 60 days or something like that. Is that like a one-to-one, or is it private group, or how does it work?
So we work in both. I found that working in both is what creates the most results. So we train in group, and when we do the coaching calls after the group, it's after the training isn't in group. And then they have one-on-one at any time, 7 days a week through the messages. And so this way, when they have something that they need to overcome, any specific things, we communicate as much as needed. When we are teaching, we teach in a group. So this way they're able to get the examples and get deeper realizations by hearing other people's stories. I find the combination of the two allows people to transform the quickest.
Beautiful. And if people wanted to apply for it, because I remember in our conversation you said people need to apply for it. There's like an interview process or something like that. Is that how it works? So maybe for anybody who wants to apply for it, maybe I'll ask Mike to pass me the link for it, and I'll also put that in the description as well. And anybody's okay to apply as well?
Yes, but before applying, you got to make sure that you know what it is that you want to change, what it is that you want to change in your life, and why is it very, very important to you. Understand what is it going to cost you in your life if you don't do this. Okay, make sure you have that, because that's going to be the first thing I'm going to ask. And if we're not a good fit, I will let you know. So make sure to have that before applying.
Okay, very good. So you guys heard it. So if there's any of you who just feel pulled towards this, you want to take your life to the next level, and you would like somebody to be able to assist you through it, somebody who's been through, growing through the whole journey, to be able to share with you some strategies and techniques to be able to take your life to the next level, then make sure to click on, I'm going to put it as a second link inside the description. If you want to apply for that, feel free to apply for it on the second link. Other than that, make sure to click on the first link if you haven't done so already, and make sure to get the free ticket for the Sunday Assemble. I'm really excited. I'm ready to learn this flow state stuff. I think that one mentor of mine many years ago said that we're students all of our lives and we can all learn from one another. So I'm very excited. I would like a few parting words from our brother here today. If you had a few lines to inspire the people today, what would those lines be?
The lines would be, we all want to change, but in reality, the way to change is to realize that you yourself at this moment is perfectly fine. This deep realization of self-acceptance, of being okay with what is happening right now within you, outside of you, in your life, that is the key to change. When you do that, everything in your life will change. And you will see that when I speak about this on Sunday, why that one thing is ultimately what we will accomplish, and how that one thing will set you completely free.
It's beautiful, powerful. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And appreciate everything you're doing for the people. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.